The US and Iran is stuck in negotiations, or in what we can say a forever war. China just made a move that could cost the world billions in oil in the future. They didn't mediate, they supported Iran's 2 million fee on every ship that's going to pass the Strait of Hormuz from now on. That's right. But China isn't just supporting it, of course. They're about to get especially friendly treatment, and that's the deal no one's talking about. Positioning themselves in Iran war actually is something very interesting, very ambiguous, and at the same time very clear in the point of view of help military specific intelligence data. China, as we have been talking about here since the beginning of the year, has helped Iran with ballistic missiles, projections, systems, so that they don't depend on US GPS, obviously, and so many other things, so many other important things that Iran wouldn't have, technologically speaking, if it wasn't for the help of China. But at the same time, of course, China is not clearly position itself as someone that directly supports Iran unconditionally and directly against the United States, because that would be a strategic move China seems not to be willing to do for its ties with the nation state of Iran. And that's, of course, very interesting. Então a gente corta aqui no minuto 4, do minuto 4.30 para frente. Então vamos lá, a gente começa a gravar aqui do minuto 5.30. But of course, Iran would probably not give China a special position, as China vowed a special almost treatment for friendly countries, stating of June 30, and China supports Iran's fee system as legitimate right to manage a waterway, which I read from CGNT, June 31. CGNT, as we know, it's a China state media, and they wouldn't release, they wouldn't talk about something if it was not in the interest of China to release. Of course, it hasn't had no direct Chinese or Russian mediation in Iran talks, although the president of Russia has directly offered himself more than once for the president of the United States to mediate this war, but it wasn't accepted. So China, of course, prefers bilateral Iran-US negotiations, but they have, of course, as Pepe Escobar, one of the main analysts that we are going to bring here in the Secular Voice, Pepe says that clearly that China is acting behind Pakistan and asking Pakistan and using it to ask it to intermediate more indirectly the talks. So it seems to be, of course, of direct interest for them that it finishes, given the importance of the state of Iran and mostly the waterway of Hormuz means for their energy, which, of course, United States surely knows about it. So there are a lot of stakes in this war so far. China has supported Iran apparently much of the same in general as it has since the beginning of the war. The fact that it will support Iran's claim to ask for charges as much as it happens in the Suez Canal, that's now the power of Egypt. Suez Canal has been the power of Egypt very much the same after many years. So yeah, of course, now Iran as a nation state needs a lot of power and money to reconstruct everything that was destructed, and it keeps being destructed in this war. Israel will keep going being a threat, and China needs its oil to keep flowing no matter what is the current state of the war. And of course, they will keep giving the Iranians the very crucial technologies without which they would probably have survived so far, or perhaps would have survived many worse. So Chinese, as always, keep in these matters, just like in Russia-Ukraine war and other conflicts in the world, such as this one, because Iran is much more important for China than Ukraine will ever be. And of course, we also need to consider another important point I want to share with you while we make our daily geopolitical walk talk, because that's what we do now together. And one of the most interesting points, is that how can I exactly tell you? One of the most important points of all we are talking about here is China in these conflicts keep being like, of course, international relations, especially this one, at the moment it's not a chess board, because it's much more complex than a chess board will ever be. But it's like China was behind the curtains, but always acting in its way. Strait of Hormuz, around 37%, apparently, it always varies by year, comes to China passing through the Strait of Hormuz. And Venezuela is already a vulnerability. I don't know how much the supply of Venezuela oil is going to China as it was before, after what the United States did with the president of Venezuela. So it's very important for Chinese to remain freely passing through the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, they will keep making it worth for the Iranians. So yeah, it's a very hard situation. China will always give it way to win through direct negotiations and keep helping, even that indirectly, but technologically, strategically, in important points, the Iranian state, which is a support they cannot simply deny, no matter how small it is, or it may sound given their situation. And this is extremely important. We need to keep accompanying it, how much China will be able to circle around, settle down, and winning in this situation. But it's always going to change, and it's very important to consider. Yeah, look at that. It's very important to consider what China is doing in the world, and if you want to know more about China and what China is doing, please subscribe and support us, because this year be the year that we are going to be a voice of China in the world, bringing for you what's happening there, what's happening in the world that the Western media is not talking about, especially about China. Like this boat flowing alone in the river, trying to go against the chains of the ocean. And yet, bringing for you the best news, local news, important figures, actions from China, from the new world order of the world for you, especially from China in a special way, unique way. That's where we are going to be for you now in the second part of the year. So put that on your calendar, because this is only the beginning.